morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Oh, best day ever. What is going on?
I
Oh,
said, I said, I said that to somebody this last week, just out of the blue, and he just looked at me like, "Wow, I'm glad you're having a really good day."
wow.
I'm like, "Oh
Well,
no, somebody just got to me where now I say best day ever randomly."
well, that's what we want to do. We want to spread that love and energy because you know what? Every day on this side of the dirt, it's a good day.
That
So
is
good
true.
morning to everyone. If you want to pack your days with best days ever, go ahead, get your own best day ever T-shirt. That is
Ooh,
now available on the store. You can, so you too can have a best day every single day.
wow. I
So
might have to get one of those.
yeah. Uh, I'll say they're not fast. I've ordered two, and it's been a. I still don't
You know
have
what it
them.
looks like digitally, but not
yeah,
in
yeah,
real life.
yeah, yeah. But all
Uh,
right. Do you know what this week happens to be, Kevin? I think you
uh,
do.
this week, actually, I may not.
You're not sure
What?
what just happened?
No, clue me in.
So
Oh,
it's
gee. We weren't
it's
supposed to
Kevin's
talk about that.
birthday.
That was
Happy
act
birthday, Kevin.
that was last week. It was Saturday, so
Okay, see, so I'm within
I
the
did
bounds
within the
of.
bounds. Yes, it was. I didn't bring it up last week. It would because it would have been the day after that. But yes, I turned 60. I'm old. But, we were able to keep up with everybody. We went to Nashville and partied, my wife and I. It was a trip with only her and I that we haven't done a trip with just her and I for a long time. So it was really,
Hmm.
really good. Nashville was a blast. I've never been there before. So if you ever want to go and you want to hear some tips, connect with me somewhere else. But it was great. So best birthday ever. Yes, thanks.
That's right.
uh,
uh, so
too much.
you got
Thanks.
to go to Nashville, huh? That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah,
What did you do in Nashville?
well, okay, so here's gonna be another, like, unintended plug, but we watch a show
Hmm.
called Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix,
Oh,
and he goes around and visits different restaurants. We built our trip around the restaurants that he featured on his show and going to all of those restaurants, and it just so happened that CMA Fest was going on that same weekend. So,
okay.
down on Broadway was crazy with people, so we would do that during the day and go to the restaurants that we wanted to go to at night, and actually that worked out nice because other people weren't going to these other restaurants, they were going to all the concerts and everything else, so it was great, it was a wonderful experience, if you like food like I do, it obviously shows, right? I think that's a good show to learn different restaurants. There's a lot of good shows, right? You could that, and I've done that where I've marked off the restaurants and tried when I go on speaking engagements or anything, I try to look to see if I should go to one of the restaurants there if there's times like from Triple D, diners, drive-ins, and dives with Guy Fieri, I think is his last name.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones. So we also ended up going to the Country Music Hall of Fame. We didn't go to many others. So it was nice. It was a good 4-day weekend. We left early Saturday morning to fly in there, and then came back late Tuesday night. So it was just the right amount of time. We were ready to come back on Tuesday.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Well,
man. That's
thanks.
great. And did you? Aaron's asking, did you make it to the Dukes of Hazzard Museum?
I didn't even know the Dukes of Hazzard Museum was there. So now that I know, I might have to try that next time. It didn't
well,
come up in any of the lists that I kept searching. So, Aaron, I'll need to reach out to you to the next city I go to.
all right. Well, as we've started to do, even though this is not a paid affiliate, we are big fans of the Buffalo Trace bourbon and whiskey. So if you're ever in or around the Buffalo Trace, do stop by and pick yourself up a bottle. It is fantastic. So,
It is,
uh,
and I have to admit, I had a couple at the bar on Monday when I was
yeah.
down. So they had it featured up there. I'm like, oh, I'm getting some of that. So it's good, Good stuff.
All right, awesome. So again, we are
We're waiting for
uh,
them to
uh,
reach out to us.
yes. So you could just if you're at the Buffalo Trace Distillery and you want this sponsorship, you're more than welcome to. But for now, we are just big fans, just big fans.
Uh,
Good deal,
well,
good deal.
see, when you started talking about what happened this week, I really thought that you were going to go to fabric capacities, but
What about?
there was
Oh,
there was
oh
a lot that
yes,
happened with fabric capacities this last week. I was getting all kinds of messages while I was in Nashville and stuff about things that
yes.
happens to people trial. But you put a nice short out. Let's cover that first.
So, yeah, I got a nice short out. There's actually a good video on it that I did. So if you're looking to like convert your, if you're looking to convert your capacity out there, boy, it's like I'm not prepared at all for this live stream.
we didn't. No, we didn't talk about any of this. We had something totally different planned.
So,
We'll do it live.
where'd it go? Okay, so I did put out a video on if your capacity is ending, how do you convert them over? How do you switch? Like, first, you're gonna have to like stand up a capacity, and we've done that video before. It's where did it go? Creating a capacity. Boy, do I put out a lot of crappy videos. No, I mean they're fantastic. You should go watch them all.
Shotgun approach.
Yeah, where did it go? I don't know. I put out a video how to create a capacity. Maybe I need to do one that is much more betterly titled because I can't find it. But we do have one for your trial ending. How do you switch over to a new capacity if your trial ending? It's relatively easy to do so. I did it the worst possible way, which is all manual because I didn't know someone had already published. Someone had already published a like how-to guide on that.
Hmm.
Where did that go? There's a notebook out there that the second I published, like, okay, I'm done. Someone said, "Well, did you run the notebook to do it?" I'm like, "No, I just manually did it because it's mindlessly easy to do so." Oh, here it is. Here's the notebook.
Oh, so somebody has a notebook you run within the current fabric capacity that moves all your workspaces to the other one.
Here, let me show you. Again, it's like we just started streaming. We are so
Yeah,
prepared. Super
that's all
excited
right.
about that. All right,
We just
here we
I
go.
just threw this one out at you. So
That's all right. It's okay. I can adjust. So Powell Potowski correctly goes, "Hey, please tell me you didn't do it manually," which apparently I did. But I'm going to share with you guys. Here is a notebook that will allow you to like automatically move all your stuff. Let's just run through this. So first thing, because we want to like do some technical aspects, it's going to import the Senpai Fabric
Mhm.
functions, right? It's going to then create a list of capacities. Now, here's the deal. From this list of target capacities that you're going to generate, you're going to find what the target capacity ID is, right? So where you want that to go, and that gets pasted in here, okay? Now, it will then go, where is it? It'll then basically run through and swap out and assign all of the capacities into
Mhm.
that, right?
All the workspaces into that
All the
capacity.
workspaces, yeah, it will get assigned to that. Although I don't see the from.
Yeah, maybe it's making an assumption that all of them that are on
Yeah.
move to it or something, but I have to think through this later because I've had a little bit different experience, right?
Okay.
And this was some of the notes that I saw from people was unexpectedly like everybody was like, "Oh my god, I'm oh my goodness, everything's gonna go away in a couple days," and then all of a sudden their trial capacity went up to 29 days left.
Yeah, for some people it reset. So for me it reset, gave me a little extra time, but I mean, honestly, it didn't take long for, like, I had 30 some odd, and it is not hard to go into a workspace, click on it, go to workspace settings, license. Now, I mean, you can see how fast I'm used to doing this because I just did it a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
You just go through and you know, switch it on to fabric capacity, choose your capacity, and you're done. Okay. Now it's a little harder for people if you don't have. Yeah, it's from Sandeep. Good call out, shout out. That's who that was, Fernando. A little harder if you don't have capacity already set up. You know, you have to go in and you have to go to portal.azure.com. You gotta go create a resource, fabric. You know what? Why don't we just do it live? We'll just show you how to do it.
We'll just show you. We'll just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. How hard could it be, right? A logo. Okay. So create Microsoft Fabric. It's gonna ask you where you want that code to be.
And somebody was talking to me about this the other day, right? Just knowing all these additional links, like, you know, some people don't know anything about having portal.azure.com, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I got to tell you, most people have access to portal.azure.com. Just what you can do there might be incredibly limited.
Right.
But this is a process to create one. So I put in what subscription, so who's paying for it, what resource group it's going to, and this is typically like who inside the company is going to pay for it. So you'll typically have, you know, a whole bunch of different resource groups. And this one will be for my trial ending or production fabric, North Central US. Now, look at this. It's going to default to an F64.
Nice.
F64 is it can only contain lowercase numbers, of course. There we go. So let's take a look at what this cost is. So, okay, so I'm about to make an $8,000 a month commitment. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to change this over to an F2, right? So I can see what my cost is each month. It's only going to be, this is $262.80 if I leave this running 24/7.
Yeah.
Okay? It'll cost me this. If I pause this right away, it will cost me like virtually nothing, right? So like I can spin this up, I could move all of my items onto this capacity, and then I could pause it. Now,
yeah,
if you have it paused, you can't do anything with those with the items there until you unpause it, but you can at least get it out there. Okay. So once I've selected that, I'll say select. It'll now be down to my F2 size. I can say review and create. It's going to validate that what I put in was the right thing. Like I didn't do something weird, right? It'll then run and like, okay, that's not it. Did it create it already?
I looked to see, I was reading Jack's question, so I wasn't sure whether you clicked on the end of it or not. Kind of looks like no. You should have got a message saying that it's creating it, right?
Yep. Yeah, it should have. Someone's watching out there going, you clicked on the other thing, dummy.
Yeah. Somebody saw where you clicked. I didn't. Yeah. So Jack had a good question in here about, do you need to create a reservation first?
Yeah, that's a good call out. What I'm creating is an on-demand fabric capacity that allows me to stop and start it. So I will have charges when it's running or charges when it's not. This means that I take very little advantage of bursting and smoothing. In fact, I could take that bursting and smoothing could in some ways bite me because even if I only ran it for 2 hours, I could use 24 hours of compute within that 2-hour window. So,
and even if you pause it, you're going to still get charged for that bursting, that smoothing part of it.
Right. And so if I want to take advantage of a 41% discount on that price point, instead of first going in and creating it like this, you go in and you create a, a, a reservation before you create the capacity. So let me see if I can quick go out to do that. So instead of going in
And
here,
and so while
uh,
you're navigating to that, what that also means is you're creating a reservation, which means you're guaranteeing that you're promising to Microsoft you're going to make that payment regardless. So, there's no taking advantage of stopping the capacity and save money, because even if you stopped
right.
it, you're still making the same monthly commitment regardless of running it or not running it.
Well, this
So
is interesting. Capacity reservation groups.
Yeah, I haven't tried doing one of these, so I don't know.
You have to go in, and it's called a reservation. And I don't know why I'm not pulling that up. This does not look like the right place to be. Oh, and it looks like
Mm.
there's a Copilot here.
I almost thought it was off the
No,
Office 365 reservation, like how you did the P1s before, but I haven't
no,
looked into it a whole lot.
it's
It's
in.
supposed to be in Azure.
Yeah, it's definitely in Azure.
When would
Uh,
it be under subscription?
it's in a. I don't remember. Well, I'll do another video on
All
that
right, we'll find.
someplace.
Yeah, we'll find
Yeah,
that
yeah,
later. If you
yeah.
actually
But
want to.
that's the gist of how you go about getting that created. Is you create the object, then you can switch over to it, and then you're good to go, right?
Yeah. So
Uh,
my experience with I have 4 tenants that I'm actively working with, kind of, or at least have access to, right?
mm-hmm.
I had a fabric capacity, a trial capacity on each one of them. 2 out of my 4 got extended. One of them, while I was on vacation, just went away.
Mm.
I had no other message on it or whatever, and I haven't been using it a whole lot, but I had nothing in my notifications or whatever. And one of them, it's been counting down, and today it's down to 1 day left. If you bring my screen up, this
Oh,
is the message that I'm getting. I actually just took this screenshot as we were waiting for the live stream to come up. Right, it's saying it's going to expire within 1 day. Some of the important things in here is that once it expires, so tomorrow, it's going to, I guess, move all of those to the Power BI capacity, and then whatever items are there that's non-regular Power BI, they will no longer be usable. But even more so, they'll be permanently deleted 7 days after expiration. So I got to do something with that. Um, once, I guess, tomorrow, so maybe this weekend, so I don't lose them within the next week. I'm actually going to kind of wait it out and see if it does extend it for some odd reason. See if it just comes in at the last second. Um, on one of them, on my dev tenant, it got expired, and what I did is I went over, created a new user. I think this was on my dev. Oh no, this was on another tenant. I created a new Azure user, logged into Power BI with that user, started a Fabric free trial under that user, and then I thought I could share it with my other user, but I couldn't. But what I could do is assign the workspaces that I have to the new user that I created, and then that new user could then assign it to that person's trial capacity. So that was a little workaround that I have. I don't think it's going to work a whole lot, and it was a little bit of a hassle. It wasn't as seamless, which makes sense, right? So the trial capacity is really supposed to be geared towards just a person, but you could share workspaces in order to kind of share your capacity, your at least workspaces that are on your capacity, not the entire capacity, if that makes sense. That's what I found out during this last part of this week trying to do that.
mm.
So yeah, the best way is definitely, if you could set up an F2 and assign your workspaces to that and then start and stop it as you need it. That'll be something else that I'll be kind of working on with in a couple places. You know how set up an F-64 and start and stop it when you need to, and experiment with Copilot at that point. But just know you'll be paying more per hour.
Right.
So that's
So
where I see that we're at. Go ahead.
okay, I was gonna say I've been running through this. You have to like enable reservations, so it's not as necessarily as straightforward as you'd think. So I tell you what, why don't I go ahead and put together, like, run through this, and then I'll put together a video on creating a reservation. So
It sounds like a plan.
all right, excellent. But we are not here to just talk about just talk about reservations or creating capacities. We're here to talk about a new feature. Kevin, do you want to introduce this today?
Yeah, let me see if I can find my, since I switched all my windows around. So also within this last week, we've had the new release of the Power BI desktop, right? The June release. And one of the features that has come out from it is what's called the Power BI enhanced report format. So what does that mean to us? Well, remember a couple months ago, TMDL came out, right? And so we could save our semantic model in a TMDL format. And not only did it have a kind of a new, we'll call it language, right? That everything was put into, all of your tables got separated out into different files when you saved it into this format, which made it very Git friendly, right? Very source control friendly, right? So for the Git part of it. Well, they're doing the same type of thing. So they're not inventing a new language per se, but what they're doing is they're breaking up our report, which is the PBIR file. So if you remember, there was a PBIR that was introduced with PBIP, right? Now when we enhance it, we break up the JSON that's in that into multiple files so that it becomes source control friendly.
Oh, wait. Are you telling me now we can have many people make changes to a report, and then if we don't like something, we can roll back and like go back to an exact state without having to have 47 versions of a Power BI report file out there?
That's the idea. Doing right if you're going to do branching strategies or at least commit points, knowing how to go back to it. But so am I saying that you're going to do this? Yes, but you're not going to do it for a while, right? This is a feature that is definitely in preview. And right, the first thing you should always do is go through the documentation until you get to their considerations and limitations. I've heard some people talk about this is that before even reading all the other information about it, they read this first. And I've seen some chatter across.
And hang on,
platforms.
before we go deep into this, and I want to go deep into that, so I want to talk through that. Like, there's some functionalities that you can kind of just play with, and just it's not going to cause a big impact on anything material, right? Like, so folders. Okay, so you want to organize the things in your workspace into folders. Low probability of breaking anything. Very easy to revert away from it if it's an issue. So no harm, no foul can kind of come along with it. A new visual, right? That's a low impact type thing. You could try it out. If it doesn't quite work the way you think it would, no harm, no foul. Now, a feature like this for how you manage your foundational reporting files, which is the consumption layer of everything in Power BI, that has way more potential technical debt or technical risk that goes with screwing it up. And that's why it's really, really important to first go to this limitation section and go through all the things that Kevin's going to go through here so we can understand what those limitations are. So we'll go back to your screen now, Kevin, and you keep going.
Yep. Yeah, so here's the list of limitations, and there's some big ones on here, right? And so maybe not in the same order, but one of the things you need to know is once you save it in once it's converted from the PBIR legacy to the new PBIR, it's not possible to roll it back, right? So if you're have I would definitely not use this again with any production reports. I would save it as keep your production stuff somewhere else, save this off somewhere to maybe kind of learn the process as we were kind of talking about. Can you come up with your right process in your team so that two people could work on the report side of it at the same time, but do it in a very non-production way. Also, to me, one of the big parts here, it can't be deployed with deployment pipelines. I like deployment pipelines for moving things from a dev to test to production or however many stages you're going to use. So it's just not there yet. This one I think is huge, right? The Power BI apps is the right way to do the final share, right? There's just
Mm.
so much better control, especially now with audiences and everything else, right? But these cannot be done in Power BI apps yet. And
Yeah,
then so
I mean, isn't that like the deal breaker of this core functionality, right?
yeah,
If I think of this functionality, it's who's going to manage in a Git repo their reporting side. We're talking about our enterprise users and
hmm
how our enterprise users going to be sharing content to consumers. That's through Power BI apps. Like
yep,
to me, that's the biggest deal breaker. Now, I will say I don't care in this situation about can't be downloaded to PBIX. To
yeah,
me, anyone who's doing this is not managing code through downloading as PBIX.
right. Yeah, you should
I,
have it in a source code repository. As soon as you start using this format, you ought to be using a source code repository. No
yeah,
question.
I don't. I'm gonna say the whole PPTX or PDF. That's not a deal breaker to
Yeah.
me. Subscriptions, I think, is a deal breaker. That's
I see.
another one that.
I don't see that as a full deal breaker. I mean, if you use them, yes, but
Uh,
you
But
know,
okay,
I'm kind of
I'm looking
50-50
at the
on how much they're used.
overall. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
overall experience, and I guess
yeah,
some enterprises don't. But I mean, honestly, I haven't seen companies that have so much control over how they develop that they do or don't use any functionality. It's like they're
yeah,
using almost all of the functionality somewhere, and so that is going to be a deal breaker for someone in every
yeah,
company, right?
yeah. You may find, because you put it out there, and although somebody doesn't put a subscription on it, somebody else might. So you got to be very
Right.
cautious about it. But
Yeah.
I see a lot more subscriptions over on the paginated reports than I
Yeah.
do the Power BI reports, just because the paginated ones come out better and it has more of what people want. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm like, but yes, 50-50 at least, if not more, maybe 60-40, that it's a deal breaker.
Well, and I'm also going to say that can't be deployed with deployment pipelines. That's the
Hmm.
Power BI deployment pipelines that can't be deployed with. It can be deployed with DevOps pipelines.
You
So
think?
I believe that's how this works.
Mm,
So I'm pretty well. I mean, we can look into it. I want to see that. But I thought, I mean, how else would you deploy it if you can do this?
I that's my problem. I don't think there's a good deployment path whatsoever, right?
Well,
I
then,
mean, because sometimes Azure pipelines are just calling the REST API endpoints for the Power BI deployment pipelines, right?
no,
To say
I
move that forward, or
I
some
would just move the deploy it, use the pipeline to just point at another workspace and deploy it there.
yeah, I think we'd have
So
to
we're
get
talking
into the
about Git
technical.
integration.
Right, but are you talking Git that within Git you're going to have your dev, test, production pointing to different folders or different branches on the repository?
Yeah.
So you're going to move it that way, right? Which
Yes.
may be
Yep.
a possibility.
Yep.
But yes, the Power BI deployment pipelines is what I tend to use a whole lot more than
Okay.
that method. So I see where you're going with it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
So that one to me, maybe is not a deal breaker. I think the mobile layouts are very challenging because, again, I see this as a feature that's primarily targeting large enterprises or companies who have a fairly sophisticated deployment strategy and deployment management, right? We're not talking about somebody who's accustomed to, jockeying around a few self-service files. We're talking about engineers, right?
mhm.
And I'm gonna say, most of the people who take this stuff seriously take out having a mobile layout seriously because they are accustomed to having to provide support for both types of users as a minimum SLA on their reporting.
Yeah.
So I think that's an issue.
Yeah,
I
and I think, a lot of places should be thinking mobile first, right? Because,
mm-hmm.
you know, even if it's an executive dashboard, right, they're going to want to look at it on their phone or their tablet, not sitting down and booting up their computer, right? I want to see it very quickly. So mobile
Yeah,
layouts should always be thought of.
yeah, and so I'm also not gonna say it's a big issue on the save a copy or publish from a
Uh,
Power BI desktop
I
or
kind of like. I'm wondering like if this will never come, right?
yeah, yeah.
Reason being is you're putting it into a source control friendly setup.
Mm-hmm.
So why ever publish from Power BI desktop? Why
Right.
not just always have it go from what you're saving into the Git repository and using the merging and the branching, the committing,
Mm-hmm.
So
No, I agree completely on that. Um, and the whole upload can't be upload to workspace as PBIX. Like, okay,
I'm
that
not sure I know what that means yet.
I think it's once you go
Once you
once you
can,
yeah once a report is converted, you're done. You never go back.
yeah,
So that's a huge red flag. Don't just jump in on this one, right?
yeah,
Now, the other biggest limitation, I think, is also the can't be utilized in a Power BI embedded experience. Well, again, if we're talking about engineering teams that are engineering solutions where they need to have engineering um, these capabilities, I think a lot of them, there's a lot of companies that are using Power BI embedded for all of their displaying of reporting. So if it's going to an end user, it's going through an embedded solution, and like this just takes it right off the table. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, if definitely if you're using the embedded, right?
mm-hmm,
But embedded could mean that you have it in your SharePoint, right?
mm-hmm,
Not just that you're
right,
writing custom embedded setup beyond it. So it could be a very big thing that all of a sudden you don't realize, hey, this is shared over. This is also put into our SharePoint page here, and that I think is going to be part of considered embedded. So
yeah. Well, and I will also say that while we're calling out the negatives here, this is what MVP minimum viable product deployment looks like,
hmm
and I mean, we all know sometimes you have to deploy a feature in order for other features to come out, right? And
right,
until that feature is out, you can't deploy the others.
right,
So to me, this is okay. We've got these features out. We have to have these out so we can deploy the other components. Um, this is a good opportunity for people to see this stuff and to start working through and developing patterns around this. So
hmm
this is not, hey, Fernando or Bernat or Greg or Jack or Donald or anyone else in the chat or Jason. Hey, start converting all of your process to this right now. It's
mm
hey, hey guys, figure out how this works. Amen. Go in and learn how to work with DevOps. This is like you need to put that on your goal for this quarter. If you're not using it today, now's the warning time to actually get this in. Okay.
yep,
Um, yeah, Fernando's
yeah.
exactly right. This is a self-service versus enterprise fight.
Yeah, enterprise is going to take it on first, but
Hmm.
sooner or later, the people on self-service, you know, they need to have better ways of, versioning their file rather than renaming it. That's an old thing that comes from people in the Excel world, I think, right?
Hmm.
Here's my report, final. Well, really, one more time, final.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once you
Yeah.
kind of learn this, so yeah, there's some people I'm trying to kind of lead along and seeing it. But now, we've kind of talked about these limitations and everything. Let's go back to what um so these are two different documents that I'm looking at. This is the blog post on it from Rui. Rui is one that's very much behind this effort, taking a lot of input from I don't know if you remember the old tool called PBI tools,
Hmm.
right? And so PBI tools used to kind of break it down this way, but what was before is Microsoft never supported that if it was broken down this way and you made a change, that it would go back to a supportable version of desktop, right? Or of the report. So that's kind of what I think the big part of this announcement is they're going to break it down to these smaller files. If you wanted to run some type of script, and that's a little bit later in this blog post, if you wanted to write a script to make some big change across all of it, you're going to be able to do that in the future, right? To kind of help make a mass change to things. Um, and then save it back together. What I hope will come out of this is helping to edit bookmarks a whole lot easier.
Yes.
Because editing bookmarks through the desktop is a pain, right? Remembering to go set this and that, bring this pane up, and did I choose keep data, not keep data? What did I do? Right? You're going to be able to look at the code behind it and start figuring out how to do it. I think that's going to be one of the first things that we'll see others that are making scripts or whatever come back and say, "Yeah, let's handle bookmarks," because everybody complains about bookmarks, right?
Yeah.
But
That, and honestly, understanding what they are, or even just knowing that they exist, or the different ones that are there, is super hard to
mhm,
like understand. So this is
yeah,
very exciting.
yes. So let's kind of walk through what's in here, right? Is this is kind of showing what are let's see, yeah. This is showing what things kind of look like, I think today, right? I should have read this document in full. Do, 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 do.
God
We'll do
forbid.
it live. Oh, I don't like the way. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this is a whole lot better. See, here they talk about here's um I like doing it my way, what I looked at better. Let's just do it inside desktop, right? Let's not read through the rest of the article. This is what I want to do. So we're going to take that down. Let's go into desktop. If I could find the right version. And boy, where'd everything go? Okay. So we're going to in order to get this going, there's a couple things that you got to look at, right? First off, you got to come into your options. And once it comes up, man, I thought it was going to go away. Obviously, go under preview features. And what you're going to notice,
Kevin, can you? There you go.
yeah, I just needed to get to a point that I could
No
zoom in.
problem. Yep.
There's these preview features here. And in the previous version of Power BI Desktop, I think there was still one underneath it, but it was just a Tyndall format. So now what you could do is choose to use your PBIP format
Mm.
and either only store in Tyndall, which I've been doing that in other reports, or I separate my model in my report. That's been working great for me. So for your production reports and everything, you could still kind of think about just using the Tyndall part. But then if you have on store reports and enhanced metadata, the PBIR, right? So you could choose between the two. In this demo, we're going to have both on. These are one of those that once you change them and you exit out of this dialog, you're going to have to restart Power BI Desktop. So obviously, I have it already set up. So let's kind of take a look at it. I'm going to bounce from, let's see, let's go ahead and open a report. And I'm going to open, let's see. I think it's going to be, yeah, let's do this one. That's a year ago. Let's not do that. Let me open this PBIP file. Oh my goodness, it's opening into a whole nother page, a whole nother window. I thought it would have just opened in the one that was started, but that would be too easy, right?
Wouldn't that be?
Yeah.
So
So
while we're going through this and while you're pulling this up, Kevin, for those of you in chat, we're going to toss out a question of the day. Are you planning to use the enhanced reporting format as part of your deployments, right? Like, we're going to learn about it today. Let's know right now, before you've actually seen this, is this something that you're planning to use, or you maybe not? Let's see what it looks like.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Kevin.
So we have this as a Power BI project folder, and I need to go. I forgot to open one window to know it's not the one that I want, to know where I put this. Kevin, why do you do live demos?
Because everyone loves it.
Oh yeah, and this isn't going to be where I want it to finally be. All right, let's do this. Let's go back to we're gonna set our options, right? We have our file open. Go back to it. It's a very simple report. I know if I could find it, I could show you exactly. Hang on, I'm going to bring this window up. Get rid of it real quick. Go to my GitHub. See what this was again. Okay. Contoso data.
So
All
we're
right, so
still working through these things ourselves. So,
well, I want to kind of show what's in the file format right now, because this was open with the original, or this was produced with the original PBIP file, right? So
okay,
we're going to come to Contoso. Yeah. Okay. So we have a whole bunch of files here, and the Contoso data PBIP, right? That's not, I want to come back to here. So this is the project file. This is a PBIX file, right? But you can see once we save the project file, we also create this data set and report. And if we look at data set, it's very kind of generic at this point, right? It has a couple JSON files, right? And it's the biggest thing that's in here. Oh, it also has, I didn't expect the PBI to go. I didn't expect the BIM file to be here. It must have saved an old version. Let's go back up. Oh, because I went into data set. Let's go into the report. So you can see I have a definition, right? If I open this with like Visual Studio Code, I thought it would just give me that. Let's go into, let's do it this way. Escape out. This is one of my famous demos. This just has the pointer to the data set. Let's go back. Where's the report itself? Oh, this report. Bring it over. Right, so now we can see in here, we got a lot of different JSON code. Well, or at least some. So here we got the theme and stuff like that. It's not really broken up. Get rid of this. Where's going into everything? Actually, so we can see we have a few files on the report side, If I come back up here, we could see I also shared this earlier. I saved it into our what's called the new report format. And then we introduce this definition directory. And we have pages, report section, right? So we have a whole lot more files that are smaller and are more source control friendly. So this we could actually pull into our source control tool. Like if we're using Visual Studio Code, we could do the compares, do the check-ins and everything. So let's kind of start. Let's try to get to that point, and I'm going to do it all kind of brand new. But one of the first things we wanted to set up is our source control up in our, this one, in our workspace. Have you ever set that up before, Chris? Have you done setting up of a lot
No,
of source
I have
control?
not set up source control before, so I'm really wanting to like make sure we get this recorded so I can follow along.
Okay. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to make sure I have an Azure DevOps set up, right?
Mhm.
And one way to do it is come to dev.azure.com, right? I'm pretty sure that's dev.azure.com, and it's going to redirect you to this page.
Mhm.
And what you could do is click on Start for Free, right? And don't do Start Free with GitHub because these features are only supported over on Azure DevOps. Now,
Okay.
if you've never created an account before, it sign in with the same ID that you're using into your Power BI tenant, right? And then it's going to walk you through setting it all up, right? So pick a name. It's going to assign some random name for this side of it, which is kind of like the subscription level. You see, I had another user that I shared. You could this free one. I think it's up to 5 users you could share it with. If
Okay.
you're in a bigger company, check with your IT department. They may have already set up Azure DevOps and have a special link to go through and everything. But this is kind of showing if you're going to set up on your own. So I named my project Kevin Dev Company. And once you create that project, it's going to create what's called a repo underneath it. And you'll have a repo called Kevin Dev Company and everything. So, this gets automatically set up as you go through these things. There's other stuff on here. You mentioned Azure DevOps pipelines earlier, right? You could start setting up pipelines. That's kind of like actions over in Git. And if you wanted to, DevOps has a lot of things to work in the agile way of trying to set up user stories, sprints, other type of backlogs and things like that. If you wanted to kind of get used to some of that type of stuff. But for what we're talking about, you're mostly going to sit within the repos. Okay. So then once you have that set up, you're going to come into your workspace settings, get integration, and then all of these little drop downs will start working for you. So I'm going to pick organization as Kev0953, which was that first thing I showed you. And then the project, which was called Kevin Dev Company.
Okay.
And I should have a repo that's going to be the exact same name. And I could choose, this is kind of what you were saying before, right? You may set your production workspace to your main branch. And then you may have set up an integration branch that's your test workspace is going to go to, and then a different one for dev. And then you would do kind of your features maybe off of dev and always merge into dev and then merge forward to the other branches, right? That would be your deployment methodology without using Power BI pipelines. It would be using Azure DevOps, right? That's kind of what you were referring to before, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's how I'm saying once we have this, the purpose of this deployment is to leverage these capabilities. If you would not, and that's why I said, like, hey, I'm not sure I care if it's ever able to go through the classic Power BI pipelines, because I would use this right here, because we're talking pro code versus low code path. Low code path is the Power BI pipelines. Pro code path is the DevOps pipelines. So
yeah, and I kind of mixed the two, where my dev workspaces, they only go into Azure DevOps, but
Get
then
your peanut butter out of my chocolate.
yeah, I know. So I mean, there's multiple ways. It's what works for you and stuff. But all right, so I'm going to name a new folder called FF Report, Fabric Friday Report. So I'm going to tell it to go ahead to connect and sync, and it's telling me that this folder doesn't exist. And would you like to create it and sync it? Of course, yes, I do.
Really? Look at that.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have all of this, and if I set up my Visual Studio Code correctly, let's get rid of some of these other files that I opened. Oh shoot, it's connected. I didn't want to connect it to. I didn't realize that it would. I want to be here. I've never seen this before, to where I had multiple repositories, but it's because I opened something from there. Let me close this and restart it in order to get what I want. Of course, I'm going to get something brand new that I've never seen before.
Because we're live.
Because we're live. Because I only do things live. I have to make mistakes, or I don't learn. We were saying earlier, let's set the bar pretty low. Okay.
Hold on.
A few minutes later.
All right, let's try this again. So we'll come over. We have that Fabric database project repository open. I should be able to come here, and it should want to pull things down.
And yet
it doesn't. All right, did I set that up right? Workspace.
You have it in the right folder?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is get
report main.
Oh, I don't have it to the right place.
Chewy, you're a man after my own heart. That's my my production strategy too.
This is okay. I wasn't in the right place.
So while you're redoing that, I'm gonna just take you off screen so you can set that up really quick. Anytime I'm working in a production environment and I'm having to make changes live in production because of whatever catastrophic break fix is having to occur, and I always hear the song "Standing Outside the Fire" running through my head. It's an old Garth Brooks song, and he starts singing it in my head for the entire time we're making those production changes, and he doesn't stop until we're done with it and everything is fine. So that's just how I hear this work happening. All right, going back to you, Kevin.
Okay, so I finally got to the correct directory on my computer, and you could see here that I have some incoming changes. Right, and all it is I created that directory, FF report, that's in my main branch. And if we look at our file explorer, we can see we don't have that directory right now, even though it was created up in our remote repository. So we're going to go ahead and do a pull to pull this down. And if we go back, we now have that directory. And all they do in order to make it, because anytime in order to do a commit, you have to have an actual file, right? And so they put a README file out there just in order to, you could put some documentation if you wanted to, but since there was no other files, they added this README file. It's a very common way of doing it. Okay, So we're going to ignore these other changes. I could get rid of them, but let's go back to our Power BI desktop that we opened up. And we have just this report that is a very simple report. And I'm now going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to browse this device and go to my dev company. And I'm going to save it into that Fabric Friday report area. And I'm going to actually call it new format. It's the PBIP setup. And if we say save, look at that. We get this little message, this warning message. It's using the new PBIR format that has some functionality limits. So it's giving us that. Get rid of our recovered files. Yeah, remove them. Okay, so let's go see now what's in that folder. Very smooth, Kevin. I should have just switched tabs somehow. One of these days, guys, you're gonna teach me how to do demos. And yet, this is what everybody tunes in for. All right, so you can see now underneath this folder, I have a whole lot more things, right? So I have our PBIR, which is just a JSON file that points to everything. We have the semantic model, which again is going to be within the definition. Should have, yeah, it's got all our Timdo files here, right? Because I checked on both things. Remember that, right? I love Timdo. And now underneath our report area, pages is a folder.
Ooh.
So we could pull up pages, and here's our different, it gives a page order. I think it must be named report section. I thought it was like a default page 1. What the report looks like itself. So you're going to want to start kind of going through and learning a little bit of what's in here, and watch for articles that come out and talk about what to look at within your pages. Here's getting into the visuals that's on that report section, right? So,
okay. So we see this committed already. Like committed. Let's see it go to Power BI.
Okay. And here's something to kind of point out, right? There's 30. What was I had 3 files before. So I'm going to actually, I don't know what these ones are. I'm going to discard these changes. I know, but I didn't want to mess anything up, because if I commit this into, oh, well, that's not in the same folder. So that's okay. Yeah. What time is it? Oh, that's why. Oh.
Kevin just having a leisurely time. What are we doing?
I'm like, today? We're not on a time crunch at all, are we? Damn it, Kevin. All right. I got lost in my own stuff.
Like, we're all watching here, man. Like,
we're gonna be here all day. You don't have to
wrap it up. Let's see.
All right, now on the source control, I have pending items coming in. This is interesting. There's only 2 items that come in. Let's go ahead and update all.
Ooh. Oh, you hit update all?
Yes. Sorry.
No problem.
I don't think there's going to be any data in this. It's working on it. So even though the report should come up, there should be no data in my semantic model.
There we go. That.
So now it got published back up, but notice it didn't get published. It got put back into the old, well, it doesn't show all that. Let's see what happens if we click on it. Yeah, there's no data in there, because I would have to do a refresh and get whatever files, get everything else hooked up, kind of like, what we need to. That is kind of going to be one that's an important thing that I think about it. If you're using like Excel on your own, desktop and everything, when this publishes out, it's not going to bring any of that data up. So
Oh, well,
new thing.
all right. Hey, Kevin, that's a fantastic demo. You
Okay,
did it.
it wasn't fantastic, but we got through it.
Well, to be fair, we pulled a big tangent on you and gave you half the time we had thought you were going to have. So.
Well, it was
Great.
fun. Y'all get
Yeah.
the gist of it, right? Start
Yeah.
learning it. You know, let's just keep talking and keep everybody here all day.
Yeah. Well, but Kevin, you're spot on, right? Like, so what have we learned from this? Like, number one, we got to get familiar with working with Git and Visual Studio Desktop and get familiar with working with DevOps. And if we're not in DevOps, how do we get that set up and working, right? And start learning these muscles and seeing how these tools interact and integrate is a great skill to start learning. So as these features start to like come out of that MVP state where it's just like, hey, don't use this today, you'll be ready for it. And not just you, but your team and the people around you will be ready for it, right? Like, I know if I said today, hey, everyone, you need to know DevOps, that's a journey that people are going to need to go on, right? That's going to take them a few months to get up and running. So it's not the end of the world for there to be a gap between then and now. So
yeah, and kind of back to like the self-service versus enterprise or pro people. Even pros years ago, when I would try to get them into source control, even for database projects and stuff like that, you're right. It would take weeks, if not months, for them to get the concepts down. So get started with it, start learning it, work with it in small ways on your team. That's the message.
And with that, thank you guys all so much for joining us today. You have a fantastic weekend. We will not be here next Friday. Kevin has got fun stuff he has to do. I have to I've got a training I'm giving next week, so I won't we won't be here next week, but the week after we will be back. So
I'm gonna message you while I'm on the beach and ask how your training's going.
That'd be great. Oh, there is a question from Fernando before we go. What's your hat logo?
So while in Nashville, we went to this tiki bar called Cooper's, and I'll have to show you the video in the future of the flaming drink that I had and what I learned on what burns. So
with that, we're gonna let you go. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace. Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.